currency from the Bank of Poyais, which didn't exist, to everyday citizens. The money was printed by the Bank of Scotland. Crazy Pierogi, hello. The money was printed by the Bank of Scotland's official press. He even told hopeful settlers that they could exchange their pounds of sterling for Poyais dollars. He made a whole fucking fake currency. It was so easy to trick people into shit before the internet. It really was. It still is with the internet, yeah. Okay, so the ultimate and final deception was to organize and charter 2 voyages of settlers to Poyais. In September and October of 1822, so Gregor's 35, over 200 settlers set sail on 2 ships to nowhere. When they arrived, they found that the town of St. Joseph, which they were told was a thriving town of 2,000 people, was actually a bunch of swamp, some ruins, and jungle. But they were so hopeful that they just assumed they had made a sailing error and the town was nearby. So they unloaded their things with the intent to venture inland and find the town. So they attempted to, when they realized there was nothing there, they attempted to set up a town of their own, but class divisions in the colonists meant that many considered themselves too good for manual labor. It makes things a little tricky. Spoiled provisions put further strain on the group, and when spring arrived, it brought the swift onset of malaria and yellow fever. 20 people died within 2 weeks. A group of colonists tried to build a boat to get help, but it was wrecked. 6 people were rescued by a passing ship from Honduras, the Mexican Eagle, where they were told that everything Gregor had told them about Poyais was a lie. So the leader of the whole expedition reported that Gregor threatened to bring 7,000 tribesmen down on the settlers if they did not swear fealty to him or leave his territory. So the settlers are like, yeah, we're out. This is dumb. A vast majority of them opted to take up the offer by the Mexican Eagle. So the ship that had rescued some of them was like, look, we'll carry as many of you as we can in as many trips as we need to Belize, and you can take some sanctuary there. So the settlers were like, great. Most of them took up that offer, but they were still very ill. So despite treatment and being taken away from Poyais, 2/3 of the 200 settlers died. Some of the survivors returned to London by October 1823, desperate to stop other ships from setting out and delivering more souls to the same fate. The police were involved and Gregor was charged with fraud, but he had already departed for Paris a week earlier to raise more investment money for Poyais. And he was successful. He managed to persuade some French firms to invest. I think he raised like another $400,000. This is like 1823. That's a lot of fucking money. And even wrote to the King of Spain, offering to make Poyais a Spanish protectorate and a foothold on the Mosquito Coast. But the king never replied. Despite the reports from the British press, Gregor managed to arrange a ship of French colonists to go out to Poyais. But luckily for these would-be settlers, French law required people to obtain a passport for travel. And when people began applying for travel to a non-existent country, officials investigated. They refused to allow the ship to depart port, and Gregor's French partners were arrested on charges of fraud. Gregor went into hiding after that, but he was arrested in December of 1825 and held in a Paris prison. Fortunately for him, one of the directors of the Poyais company, because of course there's a fake Poyais company, had fled to the Netherlands and was tried in absentia. So he and the other 2 directors were able to pin all of the blame on him. So he had like his little cohort of people that are helping him build up the idea that this place exists and there's all these great things. And but when one of them went into hiding, they were like, oh yeah, no, it was all that guy's idea. And so he was released in July and returned to London, where he was arrested again, held for a week, and then released without charge. So he then spent the next 10 years on various Poyaisian schemes to raise money though he soon found himself competing with the new king of the Mosquito people. But he did manage to raise enough money to live on. So this was like his full-time job, as the sheer amount of money involved served to convince people that there had to be some kind of legitimacy to his claims. In 1834, he returned to Edinburgh, where he found a new audience for his schemes. I think it was a slightly different scheme this time. And then in 1838, his wife died. And just like the last time he had a wife die, he left the city and went back